Welcome back, everyone, to what we hope will be a fascinating and useful session featuring two key commissioning bodies, the BBC and Warner Media. My name's Alistair Morgan. I work at Ackerman Films as Director of Data and Analytics. We make the award-winning preschool animated show Bing. But before we get started, I have a few notes and reminders for you. Please remember there are 4 videos exclusively on offer along with these live sessions. You have the links for those in the same email that asks you to register for each of these sessions. And all these live sessions will be available from tomorrow so that you can watch again or catch up on what you've missed. There's no need to worry there. And also, immediately after this session, there will be a chance to speak to Sarah, Kate, Zia, the commissioners that we're about to speak to, as they are able to stay on for an extra 45 minutes in Wonder. So you should have all received the link for Wonder, our virtual networking space. Once you are there, you can see other delegates in a graphical interface. You can get into video chats with them there. If you're not in Wonder already, the link and password are being posted in the chat right now. So you should see that. Remember, put this in a Chrome browser to make it work seamlessly. Works best with that one. To ask a question right now in the session, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. And at the end, we'll get back to as many questions as we can. The contributors that we're going to be speaking to is Sarah Muller and Kate Morton from BBC Children's, and also Zia Bales from Warner Media. And first of all, we're going to be speaking to Sarah Muller, who's Head of Commissioning and Acquisitions, age 7+, and Kate Morton, who's Head of Commissioning and Acquisitions, 0 to 6. So, Sarah and Kate, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Alistair, and hello, everyone else.
Hiya.
Excellent. That's great. I did read your job titles there, but I think it might be more useful for our listeners there and viewers if you describe your own roles at the BBC. I understand that, Kate, you've only recently joined. So, Sarah, would you like to go first and then perhaps Kate afterwards?
Yes, indeed. There's very much been a doubling down on making sure that we're future-proofing our business. And that has led to the combining of commissioning, which is our originals business, with our acquisitions, which contains pre-buys and is how we work with people from all around the world. So it means that there's one oversight for all of those things, which makes it easier to feed in across the way. So there's more business in the role than there used to be, but I think that's a very sensible way to approach things. Kate?
Yeah, so we are split by age. So I look after BBC Children's 0 to 6, and I head up a talented team of execs and commissioners, and who, as Sarah says, are working both for commissioning, pre-buys and acquisitions. But I've only been lucky enough to be doing this job for 3 months, so it's all very exciting and new to me.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you said only 3 months there, but there's been so many things happening just in the wider society in recent years. It'd be great just to have a bit of an update on the sorts of things that have changed in the last, say, 6 months. Obviously, Kate, for yourself, you've only been 3 months at the BBC, but a sense of what are the things that have changed in the recent months would be really good. I think a good place to start.
I think as you say, it's a really exciting time, and we are absolutely focusing on having a one port of call for both the UK and internationally to really super serve our audience. And that means that we're working with production companies, particularly in the UK, obviously as a terribly important focus, but also driving to iPlayer is an increasing focus for us because that's where our audience is. So it's about having a really wide approach and drilling down into what our audience needs and making sure that that's where we are at.
I'd quickly like to add that this is also, there's going to be an increased focus on animation moving forward, particularly for 7+, which is great news for this audience. And some of that's a response to how well animation has performed during COVID, because that's had a big effect on our business. And I'm sure you've tackled that elsewhere, that the audience will have thought about how COVID has affected everything we do, from the content to how we deliver it. But also just it's about providing children with more of what they want. We're going to go into a bit more detail later, but absolutely our commitment is to more UK produced animation moving forward.
That's great to hear. I think, you talked a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes. I'd love to hear a little bit from a content point of view across CBBC and CBeebies. What's worked well over the past year or so?
Well, as Sarah was saying, animation has been proven to be the most loved genres on TV channels for under 13s as of this summer, with an average AI of 86. So right at the top there. And for us, 9 out of the 10 animations that were most loved were in the 0 to 6 were, top ones, obviously, that are making up the big hits for us for 0 to 6 is Bluey and Hey Duggee and Bing, all of which, and Number Blocks, really, really big hitters. But also, as Sarah was saying, in 2021, 31% of viewing on kids' TV channels is animations. And animations regularly make most of the watched episodes on the CBBC channel every week. So looking at the week commencing 25th of October, animations were 8 of the top 15 TXs, with the biggest audience for individuals 4+. So titles like Ninja Express, Boy Girl, Dog, Cat, Mouse, Cheese, both sitting in the top 5 alongside Newsround and Odd Squad. So that's why we are here, really, because this is our key focus.
It's a real success story. For the 7+, Kate's just called out Boy Girl, Dog, Cat, Mouse, Cheese and Ninja Express, both of which, interestingly, are European co-productions started before Brexit. But what they're really proving, and we'll come back to this later, is that character-driven comedy is absolutely the sweet spot for the 7+ audience. That ability to tell stories that are fast-paced, that absolutely everything comes from the characters and their relationships with each other is what our audiences want to see. And obviously they then complement Danger Mouse, which is a long-running, well-established title for us, and also Dennis and Nasha, who you can see as I go in and out of the screen. We've been experimenting with how we're going to get that content to the audience moving forward by making it more available. So yes, generally very good, again, for all our animation across the last 12 months.
Well, thanks for those answers. It's clear that across both age groups, animation is incredibly important. If I may, though, I'd like to dig a little deeper. You touched a little bit on it there, Sarah, with your answer, but I'd love to try and hear a little about what you think makes a great animation. I think.
Can we run our reel first, Alistair, just to give everybody a little taste of what we've just been talking about, if that's okay?
We can. Let's do that.
I think we're at the right place. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I want to go back to the animation issue that we were talking about previously. You touched upon it there, Sarah, in one of your previous answers, but I'd love to hear from you both around what makes a great animation. I think that'd be very useful for anyone that's thinking about getting into the commissioning process to hear a bit of feedback on that.
Well, as you know, Alistair, as you are at the home of Bing, which is something that's utterly beloved of our audience, you can't really bottle lightning, but you can possibly look at some ingredients, I would suggest, of what you need to do. And the first thing I think I always recommend that to people is to be really true to your idea. You've got an idea you believe in. Don't try and dilute it or to make it like something else that's been successful elsewhere. Don't try to base it on something that's already in the marketplace. Make sure you've got an original idea that you really believe in. And then the most important 3 words from that point on are develop, develop, develop. Okay. I see a lot of ideas come in that are really promising, but there's just not been enough time spent on developing the characters, developing the worlds, pushing the designs to one more iteration, which might just be the tipping point for absolute perfection. So character development, absolutely. Then if you're deciding to go down either a board-driven or a scripted route, either are valid depending on the creatives you have at hand, but just don't forget those. Don't forget about the story you need to tell. That all needs to be part of it. And that will really help push things forward. So that's what the start of a great animated series is for me. It's all in the development. Sorry.
Great answer. Kate, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I absolutely echo Sarah. I think it's also making certain that, you know, from a character-driven perspective, it's you know, we've got to have those great storylines with those strong pacing and strong beats without, but you want to have it so that it's not what they're saying, but it's why that character's saying it, because it's absolutely who they are. Why are they doing it? Because it's who they are. So it all feeds back to, you know, really getting that mapped out and really strong from the start.
Awesome. Okay, so next one I have for you is more around the slate you have for FY22-23. What are you looking to commission, and are there any gaps at the moment in the slate?
One of the things that is a key factor is that obviously our slate has been impacted by COVID-19 across the entire schedule. Which has resulted in a backlog of ideas and paid development across 21-22 and 22-23. So we are mostly looking for 23-24 for commissions, but there's still opportunities for acquisitions and pre-buys for iPlayer for 22-23. So that's one key point that is making a difference. But in terms of what we're wanting to do is really build fewer but bigger properties. Being public service is absolutely the heart of what we do, but we are really embracing the need to be competitive. And so what we will be commissioning, it has to have international relevance, but also feel uniquely focused for the UK and answering the needs of our diverse audience. Other things that we're really keen on is making certain that we are exploring crossover content to sustain our audience and our viewing habits for our audience and their loyalties. So when we're moving from CBeebies, where we are, you know, super strong, to hand over to the CBBC audience. So we're always on the lookout for ideas that form a bridge for our audiences between the 5 to 9 age range.
So even though it's segmented your roles by different ages, the commissioning process works together in that way?
Absolutely. We are the yin and yang of BBC Children's.
We're working very closely together, and I think it's all going terribly well. At least that's what I think.
Excellent.
I think for us, I'd like to start by talking about Ignite a bit, because I'm hoping that's going to deliver on some of the type of content we've called out for before.
Of course,
so
yeah.
look, hang on, there I am.
Possible that you could just explain for the people that don't know about Ignite, just very briefly, what the scheme's about?
Indeed. So Ignite is the most ambitious undertaking of this kind that the BBC has ever embarked on. And it was a shout out for new ideas, and we threw it as wide as we could across the whole industry. So you could apply if you're a production company, you could apply if you're a collective, you could apply if you're a writer or an animator, and you could apply if you're a student, with the plan being that we would support development a slate of titles that feed into what we've previously said we needed. We had 1,800 applicants, of which we've now got them down. Oh, sorry, everybody. We've got them down through the first pass. And I think we can confidently say that we're going to look at addressing some of our need for character-driven 2D comedy there. So what does that leave? What is there less of? Everybody knows I'm still really interested in the notion of properly arced storytelling that's closer to drama, because I work in drama a lot as well. I'm used to scripted storytelling. So we'd like to see what we could do in animation, which I guess takes us into an anime area.
Okay, interesting.
And like Kate and I discussing how we can pass audience on to make sure there's a lovely seamless journey up through the younger offerings and into the 7+. So at the top, we must be thinking about how we can take our audience who are more sophisticated on into other BBC services. And I think we can all think of many examples of how animation has done that incredibly well elsewhere in the system. So we are looking for something big and ambitious that will be defining, like the children, like The Simpsons, or something else indeed entirely, but that will play upwards out of our 12 remit.
Wow. I look forward to hearing more about that. And you did touch on it's an incredibly large amount of responses there, which you must be pleased about. But what about the quality? Were you happy with some of the creativity and the things that were sent in?
Yes, and I just want, sorry, I've jumped in without even consulting Kate, because I just want to say we absolutely are. And shall I tell you something absolutely unique and fabulous about this? It's back to this egalitarian approach where everyone is welcome. We don't know. We haven't seen who sent anybody in. All details have been removed. So we could just as easily be looking for a second-year student as the biggest, most successful studio in the UK's submissions. But yes, so there's been a very encouraging response. We have found it very easy to agree as a group, which I think shows we're in the right area. Everybody's looked at so some people have looked at everything and other people have come in and out at different stages. We take it into Patricia, our Director of Children's and Education, next week to make the final pass. So she will have a completely new set of eyes. But yeah, this is a talented country. It's full of really talented people that get the audience and get the genre. So very, very happy with how it's gone.
Yeah, it's been super. It's been a real treat to go through and to go through from more than 1,000, and we're now down to 40 is what we're looking through at the moment. And then we will be looking to move 20 through to first stage development. So really exciting.
Looking forward to hearing more about that. Thanks for sharing those insights. Talked a lot about interdepartment working together there. So I'd like to talk about BBC Studios now. Just to find out a bit more about how you work with them, or do you plan to work with BBC Studios?
Yeah, we work very closely with BBC Studios, and we're very, very proud of the amazingly successful shows that we make with them, like Bluey, Hey Dougie, and on the 0 to 6 side, we're currently creating a fantastic new animated comedy, which is called Super Tato, from Sue Hendry, all I would say is we really look forward to an increasing cooperation and collaboration in the future.
Would you like to add anything to that, Sarah?
We just have a wonderful working relationship with both the existing in-house group as is and studios. They are respected colleagues. We all understand each other really well. So I'm actually quite looking forward to having that all in one place so we can keep everything within the family. I think it's going to be great.
So it just occurred to me that we're almost halfway through the time that we have here. Mm-hmm. I'm getting very wrapped up in the questions that I have to answer you. But of course, I want to remind the audience there that you can submit questions and we will have some time at the end. So if you want to ask Sarah and Kate anything specifically, please remember to send those questions in so we can get them curated and queue them up at the end of the session here. So now I'd love to move on to not just one of my favorite subjects, I'm sure one of yours too, iPlayer, the amazing iPlayer. Feels like a simple question in some ways, but it's worth talking about just how important is iPlayer to the ongoing strategy. I'd love to hear a bit about how BBC Children's and iPlayer can be working together in the future.
It's hugely important because we need to be where our audience is, and there's a strong continued direction of travel firmly towards actually empowering our audience so that we are giving them choice through self-service. So that's why it's absolutely our focus, so that we have absolutely the best. And we've done really big moves to support this, and in terms of really innovative acquisitions, which as well to boost that, which I'm sure Sarah can talk more about. Shows like Cocomelon for 0 to 6 has done incredibly well, and obviously Bluey is a runaway success for us there. But Sarah, obviously you headed up a lot of that strategy prior to me starting.
Okay, so iPlayer is absolutely very important. It's the core of everything we're planning to do, because of all the audiences that the BBC commands, children's is at the front edge of self-curation, of expecting and demanding choice, and actually having the choice available for them. We must never forget they've got a lot of other places they can go. We are only one call on their time, and those services are getting more sophisticated and better, and the range, depth and richness of the choice available to them is improving all the time. So we must absolutely carry on focusing on making iPlayer a better, deeper experience for them. So that will happen in a number of ways. Obviously, functionality and engineering is an ongoing part of any modern, successful, accessible VOD service. For us, we're the content people. So it's been very much about making sure that everything we have is fit for purpose and how we will showcase it there. And that means looking very closely at how we manage the commissions, so the original content, but also what sympathetic titles we can take from around the world that will build the business that we can take for VOD only, and how will they help the wider ambitions of the BBC for iPlayer to build and grow, because we all know in the VOD world, children's and families very much a driver of success. So it's making sure we're supporting those bigger ambitions, and that's where we are at the minute.
So that's a very interesting point you made there around the global proposition there too as well. Obviously, the UK audience, the main demographic you're serving. So around commissioning, do you think there's much similarities in the themes that resonate with UK audiences as well as global ones? You mentioned some shows like Bluey, etc., which are international hits. So, I mean, how are you balancing that UK and global theme sort of around commissioning?
So I think as the world gets smaller, because we all have access to different types of content, we can see the themes that work, the themes that are accessible and universally available for all. And that will always start with family. Whatever family looks like, that could be groups of friends, that could be whatever you want to call it. But family is sort of where we start. So that's why Bluey works. It's because everyone recognizes that family setup. Being also, that's a small family. That's, I've discussed it with you in detail. That's, again, every child recognizes themselves and their lives and their family setup in Bing. And that was one of the things you really worked on. So that will always work across both the younger age group and the older age group. When we go slightly older, we know that magic works. We know that powers work. All of those things that feel like the history and lore works for everybody. Everybody's got their storytelling traditions that will help them recognize them wherever they come from. And I think we've proved with things like Boy, Girl, Cat, Mouse, Dog, Cheese and Ninja Express, which both have French producers at their core, that we can deliver really funny content that resonates with our audience as well. So what I think the point to take away is the proliferation, of platforms around the world are giving our children, our audiences, a taste of content from everywhere, and therefore they're more willing to accept it wherever they see it. Kids are very smart. As long as it's good, they'll watch it.
That's a great answer. Okay, I don't know if you'd like to add anything to that. Quite comprehensive answer.
Yeah, I totally agree. Throughout my career, I've had the pleasure of working both UK and internationally. And it's something that I've seen time and time again, that if you've got good storytelling at the heart, and as Sarah says, key relatability, then you have success. You only have to look at Frozen. That's a story which every child around the world thinks is for them. And I think we have our own fantastic franchises and huge hits like Hey Duggee being Number Blocks, that, you know, it's in a similar way, deliver on this. Sorry, I'm very, yeah, that's absolutely the key in terms of making certain that the content is actually feeling right for me, wherever I am. And for us here at the BBC, delivering on our public service values of making content that actually reflects our audience, and as diverse as possible, and as rich as possible. That's what where we see the heart.
Thank you for that. Certainly, you know, something to aspire to. There's a lot of audiences to be serving, but I think the BBC do a great job of it. I wanted to ask us some questions around just some of the functionality about how the process works. I think it might be a time to go to the questions from the audience. We've had some which are probably more eloquently put than I would ask them. So I've got one here from Lucy, who's asked a question around what would you like to see as part of a pitch document?
For me to take that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question we get asked a lot. And the answer generally is every project's different. So I'd rather see what a creator or producer wants us to see and when they want to see it. This is a personal thing. Kate might feel differently. So if you feel you want to come in with an elevator pitch that's a paragraph long, then you absolutely can. And the other end of the piece of string is a fully fleshed out scripts, animatic or animation, fully designed or color Bible, and everything in between. It is when you feel you will be doing your project the most favors that you will be able to showcase it to its greatest advantage. And you know your project. So we will trust you, the creators, to bring it at the right time.
You're obviously used to fielding those sorts of questions, both of you. Because
going to say that's an answer, isn't it?
From Rashida was asking about at what stage the program idea has to be in order to pitch it. So, Kate, I don't know if you want to add anything to that from what you're looking for.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of the stage, I think again it has to be deemed as an individual case. I think, you know, Sarah's earlier point about develop. You know, that needs to be done at your own pace, but it doesn't mean we're not interested in ideas from the very earliest nugget. But it also that you need to have you know, done the work and thought it through yourself, so that you're actually presenting something that is as rounded from the intellectual perspective. It doesn't necessarily have to have the bells and whistles of a shiny pitch, but it's about the strength of the idea.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. I've got another question around Ignite, which is from an anonymous attendee, but it's for both of you. And it says, if you entered Ignite but didn't make the first filter or cut, does that mean that your entries are dead to the BBC, even if you eventually get a Prodco interested?
I'm just trying to think back. So this isn't fair because Kate wasn't here when we did all of the substantial planning and policy work around this to make sure it was fair and didn't contravene any rules. I think it is okay. Once you've been told we don't want it, if you go on and you develop it more and you bring it in a slightly different form when you've taken it on, that will be okay. And that is in line with our general approach to projects that are rejected. If you can demonstrate you've done some work to them, or you're offering something different, or you've done something different with the commercial side of the project, then we will review. But if we've previously rejected something, then we won't.
Understood. Okay. I've got another question around Ignite, which I think is worth asking you. Kate, I appreciate that you only recently joined the BBC, so happy to let Sarah lead on this one. It comes from an anonymous attendee, but they're saying, is it possible to get an update on the timeline for the scheme? And is there a mixture of preschool and older ideas being considered as part of the scheme?
Yeah, it is a mix of both. Absolutely. We're looking across the ages from 0 to 12. And in terms of timeline, we, as I think we said earlier, we've done the first pass, so people will have heard if they've got through on that first pass. And we are now working on going down to the top 20, but we don't have a date of when that is going to be released further. And that was what was set out initially, is that we're wanting to do the best with this. And in order to give the projects time, you can anticipate when we had over 1,000 entries, it's to make certain that we're actually doing this with due diligence.
Right. I hope I'm not making a terrible mistake here, but I think you will know if you've made the final 20 or you haven't. We're working towards the end of this month. Very beginning of December, but that's roughly for moving to the next stage.
And I think I know the answer to this one, but it's been asked by a few people in the audience at the moment. So it's worth just getting clarification from you if possible. If you haven't already submitted something to Ignite to the scheme, is it possible to do it now, or is it closed for this session?
It's closed.
I mean, you could still carry on pitching shows to us, but the development won't be supported to the substantial level that the Ignite projects are. There's money properly ring-fenced to help new talent and established talent develop their projects.
It's clearly captured the imagination of our audience here. So that's good to have that clarification. Again, I know you may not be able to give this level of detail, but do you know if they're in the future, whether there'll be another opportunity to apply for it and when that might be in a year's time, or you're not quite sure yet? Obviously, it's going to take some time to end the process for this round of it, but any thoughts on when the next round might be?
I might as well again take this because it's just not fair on Kate because she wasn't here when we were talking about this. So the intention is absolutely that it'll be a massive success and we will repeat the exercise. We know the structure now. A tremendous amount of work went into making it a functioning and fair scheme. So ideally, yes, we will do it again. I can't imagine, because we'll still be going through the process of bringing on the 20 and then reducing those down as we work into them. It won't be every year. It won't be annually, but it could be biannually, maybe, is something we've talked about. But you'll have to watch this space.
Watch this space. Clearly, you both have seen so many submissions. I think really interesting, if you could briefly, without mentioning specific names, but do you see reoccurring errors or simple things which could be avoided that would make pitches a bit more successful? Are there any sort of advice that you give to people out there who are going to be pitching?
I've got one of them.
Yeah, you go for it.
The first one is this whole idea around saying who your target age group is. You'd be astonished how wildly wrong people get it and how surprised they are when you say, but this is not a 7+ show, this is a preschool show, or this is someone's just come in and told you their show is for 10 to 35-year-olds, or okay. I would suggest that if anyone's going to do any work and get some peer support, speak to their own children or the children of friends or family, find out what those kids are watching and then really try and put a focused lens across what they tell you and where that means your show fits in. Because particularly as we're now working across age groups, it would be lovely to get the idea coming to the right person to start with. Okay. Although having said that, we are both supported very ably by the wonderful Desiree, who will do some of that work for us. But that's one thing to think about. Really think about who your audience is.
Thank you for that.
You want to?
Hey, any thoughts?
I think I suppose the other thing is, one of the things that we're after is actually content that actually reflects not only our audience but also what our audience is interested in particularly at the moment. So I think sometimes I find that we do get pitches that are a bit related to perhaps the age of the person who's made it rather than so much the audience. So we get, I think particularly in for the 0 to 6s, there's a lot of nostalgia. And I don't know that our audience really gets nostalgia. Their parents or grandparents might do, but I want our audience to be the first focus. So that would be a thing particularly from the 0 to 6s is, let's make your ideas so that it is actually relevant and about what is important to our audience. So whether that's sustainability, climate change, obviously with COP26 on, and the huge interest that our audience has with what is happening with their planet. I think, we need to address those kind of issues right from 0 to 6 and up.
I think there were some fantastic insights there. Thanks so much for sharing that. Before I let you both escape, I have to ask you, how do producers contact you if they want to regale their amazing idea to you?
Well, we should have done a slide, shouldn't we, Kate?
Yeah,
that said, but we haven't. I'm really sorry. We could pop it in chat actually now. Do you want to do it quickly?
Yeah.
We're just going to put our email. You write to us. So we're putting our email addresses in here. And do feel free to send things in. If you do get it to the wrong person, it really probably doesn't matter, because we'll make sure we pass things over to each other.
We'll make sure we have it on the CMC website as well.
Yes, please. Do you want to put Desiree in as well?
See, there we go.
She's
live.
more sensible than either
Typing
of
it in
us. So
live.
to ease, I think.
Okay.
But other point I'd like to make is, we commission all year round.
Yes.
So there's not phases. You don't have to wait for a certain period of time. We're interested in and we're looking all the time.
I've got a feeling you'll be receiving a few emails in the near future on the back of this. So I really want to thank you both for taking the time to have this conversation and answer not just my questions, but questions from the audience as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't covered here? As I said, I'm sure lots of people will be reaching out to you, but any areas around that you'd like to touch upon before we say goodbye to you?
I'm going to just put a very personal one in because it's coming up quite a lot. Is obviously we know that diversity is very important in all its forms, and we're getting really good at representation on screen. Finding is it's hard to bring on young talent behind camera. And I want everybody to talk to us, to work with us. We have some money to support initiatives and schemes, but just try and see how you can bring new young people who have different visions and life experiences that will honestly enrich everything we do, because it won't just be the same small handful of people telling the same stories over and over again. So very interested to be part of that debate, but that's my one.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that one.
That's a great inspirational way to finish that. Thanks so much for your time, Sarah and Kate. Really, really appreciate it. And I think if possible, we're actually going to put a slide up that's going to show the email addresses. But right now, we're going to switch over because we have one final guest that we're going to be speaking to. Zia Bales, who is the lead acquisitions, partnerships and co-productions for kids for the EMEA region at Warner Media. Zia, are you there?
I am here. Hi, Alistair. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, just to double check, what corner of are you in the UK or abroad somewhere?
I am. I'm currently in the UK. Yeah, in the southeast of the UK, to be exact.
A great part of London, to say the least.
Absolutely.
So I think a great way to start, if possible, similarly with Kate and Sarah, could you just give a quick description of the role that you have at Warner Media?
Sure. So I'm super fortunate to be part of an amazing EMEA team. So our acquisitions team look after a host of linear services as well as non-linear. So we look after Cartoon Network, Boomerang, Boing, Cartoonito, and most recently HBO Max. So for any content pitches that anyone has for any of those services, me and my team are the people to come to for EMEA.
Great to hear that. I want to say off the bat that this Akamar are very proud to have recently joined the Warner Media family on Cartoonito. I know that deal is for the US specifically, but I just want to be explicit about that and say how excited we are.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to try and sort of keep a similar format to the last one. And again, there's been so much change in recent times in this area. Last 6 months, can you just detail about for us a bit how things changed at Warner Media over that time period, roughly?
Sure. I mean, just personally speaking, my role has been expanded in recent times. So it's a really exciting opportunity to get involved with a much deeper, variety of content, all the way from sort of preschool up to teens and tweens now with, our sort of deeper involvement with HBO Max. And that's been, very exciting. I think, in terms of the broader Warner Media business, we've had a really exciting 6 months in terms of launching HBO Max in Latin America and, more recently actually rolling out HBO Max in the first EMEA markets. So we literally just rolled those out in October in Spain and in the Nordics. So that's been really exciting. And I would just say just the continuation, of the current situation with COVID-19 and the pandemic has been an interesting kind of dynamic for all of us. We're still working from home, as you can see. That's, I think something we've all learned to manage. And, we're really fortunate that we in this business work with people and have done, globally for this entire time. We were doing it before COVID and we're going to continue to be doing it after COVID. And I think the fact that technology, enables us to communicate with such a variety of different people is what spurs us, right? Is exciting. And I think that's something that we're really fortunate to be able to do. So I'd say that those are the sort of the biggest things really in the last 6 months or so.
Launching the new channel and also the new SVOD platform sounds incredibly exciting. And it's early days for some of those, especially in the UK. But I'd love to hear a little bit about the content that's worked well over the last 12 months on any of the platforms that you'd like to share with us.
Sure. Well, I wonder if, I guess, a precursor to that could be to show our first reel, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it.
What you're about to see may shock you.
Yeah! Wait, what? Oh, my bottom!
I can't get sued again.
We can't just punch our way out of this. We have so much in common that I can totally see our friendship becoming toxic and unnatural.
We are the best on the planet!
Outstanding!
Yeah, we bad.
If you believe in magic, you'll see magic.
It's go time. Woohoo! Oh, my combos!
There they go again.
Jeepers, that's good service.
This is going to be the most exciting day ever!
I am dangling from a very high branch and I've got a fly up my nose. So call fire and some!
Hooray!
Let's fly.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
This is gonna be amazing!
I'm smiling at seeing some of that content there because my 11-year-old daughter is addicted to some of your channels as it is. So as I ask that question again, Z, about what's been popular, I can already testify that in the Morgan household, at least, Apple and Onion rules. But are there any other content you'd like to tell us about that's performed really well for you over on any platform or channel over the past 12 months?
Of course. I would say to add to Apple and Onion, I think Teen Titans Go is certainly up there along with The Amazing World of Gumball, of course, as two very strong properties that resonate really well on Cartoon Network. And then I guess across to, Boomerang, the things that are still, absolutely ruling the roost is, things like Tom and Jerry, new Looney Tunes, Mr. Bean. I think we have some consistent performers across our, our EMEA remit that is a really lovely thing to be able to share for Boomerang. Having such recognizable, well-known IP supported by, some of the new acquisitions and pre-buys and co-productions that we, acquire to complement what we already have from the original side of things. And I think, just in terms of the last 12 months and, being in this position that we are all still in, it's been really, really, I guess, impressive that the studios and the production companies that we work with on our acquired content have, been really amazing and continue to deliver mostly on time and, all working, with virtual pipelines and remotely and, all of the personal challenges that people are facing as well. And I think it's a real testament to, our business and animation, especially that, we can continue to thrive in, these difficult times. So I think that's a real kind of moment to just take stock of and, give ourselves a pat on the back for, and everyone who we work with, we're really appreciative for all of the work that you guys do.
Thanks for that answer, Zia. It struck me that you mentioned some shows there which have charmed generations after generations. And I'd love to ask you a bit about the news that you're planning to revive the iconic Hanna-Barbera brand. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? It sounds exciting.
Yeah, of course. So we obviously rolled out our Hanna-Barbera Studios Europe announcement earlier this year, which is just something that means a lot to all of us internally at Warner Media, and is an exciting opportunity. I hope for the viewers, watching virtually today, to get involved with, EMEA production and in animation especially. And basically, the group that are working on Hanna-Barbera Studios Europe will be, utilizing that timeless classic, the heritage that Hanna-Barbera brings, but complementing that by working on productions that we will, have as originals that they will develop alongside creative partners. And I think it's a really exciting opportunity for us to have a EMEA hub for production. So, we were really fortunate that we were able to continue throughout COVID-19 to produce, one of our first EMEA originals from that studio team, Elliot from Earth. And, that's actually launched now and is, certainly continuing to grow, which is really exciting. And then they're actually in production at the moment on another series called The Valiant Quest of the Prince Ivandoe, which some people may have been familiar with from the shorts that were previously created. So it's just a really exciting opportunity, basically, for production to kind of be led from the EMEA side of things, that can also be shared with our international and, with the global partners at Warner Media.
Sure. Some of those titles will be streaming or being broadcast into my living room sooner rather than later. I wanted to drill down a little bit to some of the specific brands there. Cartoonito, as an example, had a lot of focus recently. I think I'll have to put you on the spot a little, if I may, and ask you a bit about the ambition you have for the brand and the reason behind it, and why you think it's going to resonate with the audience.
Well, I think Cartoonito as a service, has always been a meaningful part of our channel multiplex, especially where we currently have it already in the UK and in Italy. And I think what's really exciting is the opportunity to continue to grow our preschool offering. So we have, Boomerang as a channel across all of EMEA, and, that targets a 4 to 7-year-old audience. So it's kids and their families, with content that is comedy centric. And I think what we're looking to do is obviously broaden out that audience of Boomerang to, appeal to a younger audience, to bring in those preschoolers. We're seeing, the viewership of that audience, and it's just huge. It's continuing to grow, and we want to be a part of that. I think we need to, in order to remain competitive in this very shaky, very exciting, but this kids business. A lot is changing, and we need to keep up with our audiences and how they are viewing and consuming content, and serve them what they want, and they want preschool content. So I think, for us with Cartoonito, it's the EMEA rollout is on the radar, and will be starting to kind of launch over the next couple of years. So it's a really exciting opportunity for us to broaden the appeal of our services, and to get into different genres, different demos of content that we haven't really been playing in recent times. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity for hopefully the people who are watching this and beyond to work with us.
So I'm just wondering if we have another VT that we can show that might show some of that content in there.
So we have the next VT. I can just introduce it really quickly before we kick it off, if
Please
that's
do.
okay. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys a bit of a sneak peek really to HBO Max, because I know that it might not be a service that everyone is familiar with. And this VT will, will give you a little bit of a taste as to what is to come.
I'll make it worth your while.
I just love this new streaming channel.
Who has a better story?
Well, I'll definitely be signing up to that. I'm sure many people in the audience will be impressed with that too. I saw obviously some snippets of children's content in there. So can you talk a little bit about, is that going to be an important part of the HBO Max offering when it launches in the UK?
I mean, it's definitely an important part of the HBO Max offering for sure. So it's such an exciting, place for us to now be playing in. That kids and family, breadth of what that brings to a streaming service is really exciting. So, I mean, as you saw from the, list of territories there where we've currently already rolled out as of last month, and we'll be continuing to add countries to that list over the coming years, which is absolutely something that is going to be an important part of our content business moving forward. The linear business is still definitely very strong and still an important element for sure. But I think moving forward, we are looking at when we acquire, when we commission, when we pre-buy, when we co-produce, ensuring that we are, selecting the right content for the right platform, for the right viewing experience. And so there will be times where we'll be looking at content, across maybe just the HBO Max side of things, so maybe just for streaming. And then there'll be content that we'll be looking at across that will straddle both our linear and non-linear services. And I think just to speak to HBO Max, it's such a broad offering, right? It has all the way from preschool up to teen and tween. And that is what me and this team that you can see the names on screen. It's a bit of a sneak peek as to the contact details for our group. Basically, we're looking at animation and live action and other formats as well for HBO Max. I'd say for the initial phase, which we're currently in of the rollout of HBO Max, the focus really is on that kind of existing well-known IP that already has that pre-awareness. And looking at that specifically in terms of what we're looking for, it would be preschool, more girl skewing animation, and then the other end, the sort of teen live action comedy series are also something that's going to be a really important part of the service that we are kind of curating, that is HBO Max. So, if anyone in the audience has, any content propositions in that space, you know who to go to. So I can, I guess, jump ahead if it kind of makes sense, since the slide is on the screen, just to speak to who to send what to, basically. So for any animation, whether it's, something really early, when maybe it's in development, maybe it's a one sheet, just a really, little cute nugget of an idea, or if it's something that's maybe a little bit more developed, that can come to myself and to Aurélie. We manage the animation side of of our kind of EMEA piece. And then for any live action, so as I said, our kind of priority for the right now is acquiring for HBO Max things that are kind of already produced, but we definitely want to be looking at things further ahead, for the future, so that we can get more involved in the live action space for HBO Max. And those pitches can go to my colleague Sabina McNally. So I hope that that's a helpful slide for everyone to look at.
Sure is.
Yeah.
And so we've got the contact in there. Now, I'm just wondering, is there anything around the process around commissioning pre-buyer acquisition that you haven't mentioned here? Because I know that's always a question which people want to know the answers to.
Sure. So, I mean, much like, what Sarah and Kate were saying, we have a very open and a very democratic process in that we try to share really broadly all of the content submissions that we get into a really diverse and really mixed team to ensure that we are, basically gathering their reviews, their feedback, their comments, to be able to then obviously share back with the content creators and producers. So we would take everything and review it as a first pass with our kind of core acquisitions group. And then based on any initial interest we get from there, it then can go to the editorial teams to kind of give a more final say if they're interested or not. And that will then, if there is interest, leads to start of a kind of negotiation discussion and next steps from there, really. So as I kind of briefly touched upon, we review projects at all stages, at all times of the year. We are open 24/7, 365, and we do look at pitches based on what our kind of slots are, what our needs are. But it's always really interesting for content creators to think about what makes sense for that idea, whether it's maybe a digital proposition or if it's maybe a series that could have a additional component that could be appreciated by the viewer, by the fan in a digital environment. I think we really need to think about how our audiences are naturally consuming content in different ways now, and to ensure that we're super serving them in the right way. And that goes for character, story, not just how we deliver the content to them.
I'm sure, thanks for that. I was going to say, I'm sure you're going to get lots of additional questions in Wonder after the session. But I was hoping to squeeze in a quick question from the audience, from Liz, who asks you, do you talk directly to writers or do you only talk to production companies?
So we do talk directly to writers. It's really useful, I think, just to have an awareness, at least, of what writers are up to, what projects they're working across, because especially when it comes to something that maybe we are commissioning or that we are co-producing, to have kind of little catalogue like a Filofax of writers who maybe specialize in comedy or who specialize in preschool. Just that awareness, I think, is useful. So certainly we're open to talking to content creators, to production companies, to distributors. Yeah. Okay.
The floodgates, I feel I can almost hear them opening. Zia, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Also like to thank Sarah and Kate for the earlier questions. Remember, you can wander over to Wonder for a chance to meet and chat with Zia, Sarah, and Kate. The link and the passwords should be in the chat right now. And I also want to point out the contact details from Kate and Sarah earlier were also put in chat there. So the next ABC session is at 2:00, and it will be looking at some case studies in co-production, discussing the deal making and the implications of multiple partners. So if you follow the instructions in the joining email, you should have registered for that and received the Zoom link. If you haven't done that yet, please do so now. It's not one that you want to miss. But remember, you can also watch all of today's sessions in full, as they'll all be uploaded, all the recordings overnight, to the private ABC playlist on YouTube. So again, I want to thank all the guests for taking the time to speak to us. Thank you for your questions. And hopefully I'll see you in Wonder in a few moments from now. Bye-bye.